Can everybody hear me all right? Everybody hear me? Hands up if you can hear me. Yep. Awesome. Thank you. If you don't know who I am, my name is Eddie Dilleen. I'm the author of these amazing books over here, both best-selling books, 30 Properties Before 30 and How to Buy 10 Properties Fast. What I want to explain with you today and go through is how exactly I built my property portfolio. Now, if I were to take it back a little bit, like I started with no properties at all in my family. Like I grew up extremely in poverty, poor, no one in my family owned a property at all. So a little bit about, I got very passionate about wanting to get ahead in life and not having to live in Western Sydney and Mount Druitt forever. I was looking for a vehicle, I was looking at stocks, I was looking at shares, I was looking at everything like that, and I landed on property being the best way to create wealth and financial freedom for everyone in Australia. So I've got a couple of slides here that I want to take you through today and basically share exactly how I did it and a little bit about my journey. Before we even get started, standard disclaimer, this is not financial advice, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I am is a crazy passionate property investor. I personally own over 110 properties in my portfolio. I'm 33 years old. That portfolio is worth in excess of $90 million, almost $100 million bucks. And again, I started for absolutely nothing. So I want to share with you, like if I can do what I've done, then everybody here has that opportunity as well, as long as you work hard and learn some of the strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you today. What we're going to cover today in basically who I am, hopefully everyone already knows that, 3 keys to my success, and I'm going to share with you some properties that we've been buying over the last 2 years, but also properties that we're buying right now. Because one of the most common things that people say is, well, that's 2 years ago, now the property's expensive and now they're double the price, so now I don't have a chance. So I want to bust that myth that it's too hard to buy properties today, because it's not too hard. I'll show you some really amazing affordable properties that we're buying literally like last week. And of course I'm going to explain a little bit about how we can help if you're interested as well. And my free gift to you today, which if you say to the very end, I'm going to let you know what that is. This is the house I grew up in, Western Sydney, Mount Druitt, in Wilmot. Wilmot and Mount Druitt has been featured as the roughest area in Sydney. I grew up in Housing Commission, mouldy old house, and again, now how I got started as well, no help from mum and dad, no one in my family owned a property at all. I worked at McDonald's, I saved $200 a week for 2 years, saved up 20 grand, I bought a little old ugly unit in the Central Coast. And that was the first. And of course now, obviously I'm a buyer's agent. We have a property investment company where we help Australians and everyone throughout the world invest in property, best-selling books, both books are best-selling. I've been named over the last 7 to 10 years as Australia's most prolific property investor. You probably see me on television 1,000 times. I'm going to be on Channel 10 like either tonight or tomorrow night. They haven't told me yet. But you get the point. Getting into the strategy that I want to share with you is 3 keys. They sound very simple, but they are very hard to master. Number 1 is buying a property that is the low market value. Now, 9 out of 10 people think I am full of it when I say buy properties to low market value, but you can do this. You can buy an existing property, and again, I always usually buy properties that are existing. Most of the time I do not buy off the plan properties, I usually buy existing ones. The way you can buy a property with low market value in a very basic sense is buying a property, many of you might have heard of this before, but it's buying property where you've got urgency in the sale. So urgency in the sale, such as like could be an urgent sale, distress sale, a bank repo, financial sale, someone's moving overseas. It could be a situation where there's a tenant in the property and therefore it makes it harder to sell that property. What I've noticed is that the biggest binders are always, when I pick them up, they usually have a tenant in place that's getting in the way of the sale. And what do I mean by that? If a tenant's in the way of the sale, it means, let's say as an example, property is being sold today and there's a tenant in the property, but the tenant's on a lease for the next 12 months. Therefore, it cuts owner-occupiers out of that most of the time. So it makes it harder to sell. The real estate agent has to go out to the property, has to call up the tenant, and make sure it's hard to get people through in a sense. So properties that are hard to get a lot of people through, they're harder to sell and you can get them below market value. Next thing I want to cover real quick is high rental yield. That's obvious. Everyone, I'm sure hopefully everyone here has heard of rental yield. Rental yield, I usually buy properties with 6 to 7, even 9% yields. This is residential properties as well, of course. And thirdly, buying a property in a growth location, but not only that, everyone talks about capital growth. It's got to be in line with a market cycle. And what I mean by market cycle is I want to buy a property when it's not necessarily a good time of the market. If anyone has seen my YouTube videos from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I was buying in Queensland before everyone was buying in Queensland. And everyone was like, Eddie, you are crazy for buying in Queensland. I was buying everything. I bought thousands and thousands and thousands of properties. I own personally 45 out of 110 in Queensland, everywhere. Like Brisbane Council, Logan Council, Ipswich Council, Moreton Bay Council, Gold Coast Council, everywhere. But the point is I was buying before it became a thing. So again, I want to share with you again where I'm buying now, which a lot of people won't believe it, but I like to buy before everyone else starts to get excited about it, because then you've got the head start of growth. So in terms of the cycle, I'm trying to buy at the bottom of the market. So obviously people have heard of growth market cycles, you go ups and downs and plateaus and everything. But buying in a cycle where it's about to explode, often most people don't think, like they look at the last 5 to 10 years and they go, why would you buy, as an example right now, why would you buy in Melbourne? It's going down in price. It's oversupply. It has bad land tax issues. Why would you buy in Melbourne? But to me, I'd be excited because that means opportunity. It means that everyone's leaving, and then I get to scoop up the bargains that are out there. Again, 99% of investors will not agree with me, but that's probably the reason why I've got 110 properties and the other ones do not. So, properties that we're buying as an example, we'll jump to it. These are properties from 2 years ago, right? This building, as an example, I just bought that building. It's going to be our new head office. Super excited, but I'll talk to you guys about that later. This is a house in Perth. About 3 years ago, I jumped on YouTube and I was like, I'm buying in Perth, everybody. And a lot of people were like, why are you buying in Perth? It's a mining town, it never grows, and it hasn't moved in 10 years. Lo and behold, everyone's talking about Perth now. This is an example. This is a house, and again, this was not on real estate or domain. House there, it's in a suburb called Stratton. Usually I don't give away the suburbs, but Perth's gone up a lot, and I'm comfortable to share with you a secret there. March 2022, roughly 2 years ago, 429,900, easily worth 680, 700K now. Now, what is that capital growth like in a point of 2 years, which excites the hell out of me, because that's 84% growth in 2 years, roughly, which the average investor out there thinks 5% growth, 4% growth is good per year, because that's the average. But these are the types of properties that, again, this one, I bought, the rent at the time was $550, $600. So does it tick the 3 boxes that I am always, excited about? It had a good yield. The yield was about 7%. It was in a metro area, which was Perth, which was in the market cycle, which it was dead. Like Perth was dead for 10 years. It barely did anything. And we bought it for $430 when it was easily worth 40, 50K more. We bought it off market, so we got it below what it was worth to begin with. So it ticked all 3 boxes. A client bought that again, 680, now it's worth 680, 700K. So 84% growth in 2 years. That's a house. I personally do not discriminate when it comes to the type of property. 90% of investors, they usually say you have to stick with a house has land, you can subdivide, you can do this, you can do that, etc., etc. But out of the 110 properties that I have, I've probably got like 40 different houses, 30 different townhouses, and a bunch of units and villas and all that kind of stuff, and commercial properties. But this is a villa. This property was a villa. We bought it in the suburb. Many people said, I showed this property to a few clients before, and they were like, it's not buying a villa. It barely has any land. It's like 200 square meters or nothing. There's no land. And you've got to pay $1,000 a year. Because villas, yes, they have strata. This one, strata was like $250 a quarter. And that included the insurance. So I said to the client, this is a great deal, like showed him the facts, the figures, etc. These are now worth like 650, 700K, a villa. And the suburb was Bando. Like, I remember talking to people about that suburb of Bando, they were like, I'm not buying there, why the hell would you buy there? But again, it's about taking the emotion out of it. Now people might, compared to this property here, compared to the fancy stuff you're gonna see out there that's brand new, off the plan, all that kind of stuff, it probably doesn't look as flash as that. But I can guarantee you stuff like this is going to grow 10 times more than everything else. Again, 85% growth roughly within 2 years. Below market value, massive rental return. That ended up renting for like $700 a week. The last thing I'll show you in Perth is This is a unit. So I've showed you one house, one villa. Now I'm going to show you a unit. This is a 2-bedroom unit, right? June last year, 285,000. I was telling clients like you cannot even build a property for 285,000, and when you look at the cost of building, construction, inflation, etc., etc. So, but again, this property rent out for 500. This is back then. These rent for like $550, $600 a week now, and these easily 15 months later, $430,000. Yield 9%. Strata, $500 a quarter, which that's $2,000 a year. That includes the building insurance. But again, for everyone out there, people listening today, 285,000, like you can get in with a 5% deposit. If you're a youngster or if you're short on cash or whatever it is, if people say out there it's too hard, I think it's bullshit, because 5% of 285K, you could get in that property with as little as like 20 grand, including stamp duty and everything. So like that's affordable. You might be thinking, well, that was 18 months ago, that was 2 years ago. I want to buy something before it explodes. And here's what we've been buying literally the last 1, 2, 3 months as an example. This is a Melbourne property, bought last month, 389K. Like how affordable is that? 389,000. Rent $530 a week, 22, maybe 30 minutes, depending on how much traffic there is, but let's say half an hour, whatever. 7 minutes to the airport, 389K. 5% of that, and again, you don't have to do a 5% deposit, but you know, that's to get rid of the excuses out there thinking like it's too difficult to get in. You can do 10%, you can do 20%, so on and so forth. Another super affordable property, $315,000, right? It's a 2-bed, 1 bath, 1 car, unit/townhouse, 35 minutes to the city. This was bought 3 weeks ago, $315,000. Like, you couldn't even build it for $315,000. And it's modern, like 2-bed, 1 bath, private balcony, little backyard, depreciation benefits. You still get depreciation benefits, even if it's existing, as long as it's new with the 1987, etc. Talk to depreciation guys about that. But yeah, rent $460 per week. That's an amazing deal. Anybody can get started with a property like this, and I would love to buy 1,000 of this. Like, one more example. This one is one of my favorite, $370,000. Bought like a week ago. Client bought this a week ago, was not on real estate or domain, $480 per week, easily 20, 30 grand below market value, yield 6%. So what's exciting about this is like Melbourne has always had terrible rental returns. Usually rental returns are like 4, 5%. Because a lot of investors have ran away from Melbourne because of land tax and everything like that, the yields are starting to get up there. Inflation's pushed the rents up, but you know the lack of people out there has pushed the prices down. So I see that again as opportunity. So again, market, we're focusing on 2024. Right now I'm buying a lot still in the Perth market, still in Melbourne. Obviously per population growth, increased jobs, infrastructure. I think now everyone believes that Melbourne's a place to buy. I wish they listened to me like 3 years ago when, you know, no one was buying there, but a lot of people did. Melbourne, buying properties in Melbourne as well. We do buy properties as well, bear in mind, in parts of Sydney occasionally, but it's got to be a super, you know, really, really good deal in itself. But I'd say if I had to pick 2 states in Australia, it would be Perth and Melbourne right now. Adelaide, like Adelaide's already doubled properties in Adelaide like 4 years ago. They've tripled in value. Again, like I don't like buying stuff that's already tripled in value. The odds of it doubling and tripling again is pretty slim to none. I like buying stuff that's at the cheap, at the bottom of the market. Usually people will raise their eyebrows, but that's when you get the best deals. And then 4 years later, you're usually standing pretty smug like this and be like, oh, I should have bought it first. So, target market. These are an example. And after this, I might do a quick couple questions. It's getting pretty loud in there, so I don't know if anyone can hear me, but property market cycle is an example. Usually, if you buy right here, everyone, friends, family, people at the barbecue, everyone will be like, why the hell are you buying there? As an example, people the last like 3 months have been like, why the hell are you buying in Melbourne? Like, Melbourne's just like a negative article after negative article, negative story, why are you buying in Melbourne? Because it's been bad for the last 2, 3, 4 years, right? And the interest rates are high and land tax, all that stuff. But again, what usually happens in the cycle? This is usually what happens. I did the same thing with Queensland. I bought in Queensland 2017, 2018, 2015, and it was all like this. And then 2022, bang, it exploded. So it's obviously about time in the market. You've got to hold stuff for as long as you can. Yeah. But if you time the market as well, you will exponentially, 10 times your results. Last 12 months as an example, again, Melbourne has seen pretty bad stuff. Like Brisbane's starting to go, Perth's obviously exploding, Adelaide's still going up, Sydney's going up a little bit. But like, everyone's like, why are you buying Melbourne? It's not going to go down forever. And that excites the hell out of it. Again, we're still buying in Perth, but it's Perth properties that we bought back then in for 300K, they're like 550. So again, I still buy them if they're really significantly underpriced, but I'm not going to be buying there forever. I usually chase whatever market is going to go and explode the most. So again, everyone's investing in property for a particular reason, whether it's, early retirement, holidays, time with family, etc., etc. But again, so interest rates are high as hell right now, and you need to get in as quick as you can because the rates will be cut next year. I really believe the rates will be cut next year. Commonwealth Bank even think December this year. But what do you think what's going to happen when the rates get cut? Prices are going to go up. Exactly, right? Prices are going to go up. So you've got to get in right now. And even if you buy property, this is what property that is 350K looks like over 20 years. If you just hold it, and the first property I ever bought was the ugliest 2-bedroom unit on the Central Coast, and everyone's like, why the hell are you buying that? And I was like, it's all I can afford. But I bought it for 138. It's worth 550, 600K now. A 2-bedroom unit, not off the plan, it was existing. So existing stuff is what I specialize in and what I recommend. And again, it's about building a portfolio. Buying one or two is great, but you got to speed it up, and you got to get the compound growth working in your favor. 1 or 2 properties is great, but 10 or 20 even better, as long as the yields and everything is there as well. So you get a $3 million portfolio, literally, instead of that 350K property, over 30 years turns into 13 million. 30 million, even more. So you're creating, a growth in the, it's the way to get, ahead financially. It's a no-brainer. I've said it 1,000 times. I hope people have already seen it by now. So how do we get basically properties? And again, how do I negotiate properties? Obviously, there's a lot of buyers agents in this room. And to me, 95% of the properties that I buy, and for myself and for clients, 95% legitimately off-market sales. So through connections with real estate agents, bank administrators, public trustees, sellers directly, I've done it all. But again, usually these properties are tenanted, which if the seller needs a quick sale, then it's hard to get people through in an open matter. And then the more active, the more people, the more connections you have with real estate agents, the better you can get properties that are off market. So there's the who, the how, the why, so on and so forth. We can help you along the way. Our property buyers agency, on average, usually pick stuff up 10 to 20% below market value. Strong location, strong return. We've got multiple ways that we can help people invest in property. If you jump on YouTube right now, we've probably done 2,000 free YouTube videos. It's all out there. Subscribe to the channel if you can. But if you want something further, we've got courses there. That start at $399, $400. It's amazing value, right? So I'm not going to go on too long. I'll let you guys decide that on your own. But what I am doing today, just by being here today, by listening to me speak, I hope the area was going to be a bit bigger that we're speaking in. But these 2 books I'm giving you, everybody here today, absolutely free. I've got literally 1,000 books to give away for free. It's $30,000. These are the best-selling books, right? So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay for it. This is a best-selling book. At the stand, which is over there, my team, if you're over there, put your hand up, my team over there. There we go. They've all got the books. If you haven't got a book, or if you've already got a book, get another one. Give it to your friend, give it to your family. They are free. You don't need to pay for it. So just by being here today and hearing me chat a little bit about property and share my story, everybody will get a free book. The stand, Dilleen Property is over there. So run over there after this. I'd love to meet you. My team would love to meet you. And we hope that we can one day chat to you more, chat to you about property, and help you kick ass in property investing. So thank you all very, very much. This is it. Anybody? Questions? No? Yep.
Yeah, that's a quick.
So the question was, so you buy existing stuff, what about by not buying existing, you might have to do renovations, right? Like how do you look after the client? How do you look after the property needing renovations, right? So good question. So yes, we buy existing properties. We occasionally do buy brand new properties as well, occasionally, depending on the type of property it is and so on and so forth. But with existing properties, those properties that hopefully you might have seen, a lot of them were not super old and ugly, right? Like these ones, usually we'll buy a property, a very in-depth process goes on before I would show a property to a client. Like we've got to make sure this thing's structurally sound. The property's already tenanted. All properties will some stage need maintenance, of course. Like even if you buy a property brand new today, 6-10 years later, it's going to be this age because that's about 9-11 years old. So you're going to have maintenance no matter what. But before we present properties to clients, 100%, we always help people with getting a pest and building inspection done to make sure that it's structurally sound, so on and so forth. So yeah, but no matter what, whether you buy a brand new one or old one, you're going to have to do maintenance sooner or later, right? But like before we show a property to a client, like that is part of it. And of course, having a good property manager as well to do the routine checks every 3 to 4 months to make sure the tenant's looking after the property, so on and so forth. So yeah, hope that answers the question. Oh yeah.
How do you keep buying without running out of serviceability?
Great question. So the question was, how do you keep buying without running out of serviceability? Amazing question. Very complicated question, but good one. I'm going to try and answer it as quick and easy as possible. Before I answer it, I've done a lot of videos on YouTube that go for like 20, 30 minutes. I know your time is valuable. I won't blow about 20, 30 minutes of it right now. But when I got started, as an example, I did everything I could to try to boost my borrowing capacities up, which is not pretty, it's not fun, but I got like 2 jobs as an example for a short period of time. I was working full-time one job, got another job for a short period of time. After like literally 2 pay slips, the bank counted the second job as an income. It's the bank's policies. But in a sense, once I started learning the bank's policies, sitting down with a mortgage broker that had 10, 15 properties themselves, then they could show me the secret or legal loopholes of how to continue borrowing capacity. Things like such as, occasionally you might buy a property in a company. If that company is, registering as it's taking care of itself, then sometimes banks will not even consider the debt that company holds. That's one. Number 2 is you can also buy property using a self-managed super fund, which when I buy, I've got about 8 or 9 properties that I buy in self-managed super funds that I own, and like they didn't take anything into consideration that I held in my personal name. So when you're stuck in an individual name, you just switch over to your self-managed super fund when you can and buy using a self-managed super fund, as long as you've got money in there. And you can buy within a self-managed super fund with as little, believe it or not, as like 70, 80 grand, right? That property there, 370, 20% deposit, would be about 80 grand of super. A lot of people in here probably got 80 grand of super just sitting there doing nothing. So I'd leverage it into that. So using super's one, buying a company's one, another way, like going down the tiers of lenders as well. Like if you've heard no from like Commonwealth Bank or Westpac or Macquarie, then you just go to another lender. There's 100 lenders out there, right? There's first tier, second tier, third tier lenders. And eventually, like when I got stuck with Commonwealth Bank or Westpac, I just went down to I used Pepper Money. Has anyone heard of Pepper Money? Raise your hand. Pepper Money? Okay, cool. Now, they've got really high rates, but I was there, I wanted to continue buying the properties, so I switched over and bought through Pepper. Even the rates were higher, eventually, once the rents went up, I was able to refinance away from Pepper and bring it back to Commonwealth. And then get a Commonwealth like private manager and all that stuff. So you do what you can, don't take no for an answer, and provided with, standard common knowledge, like you've obviously got to be showing some kind of income, so on and so forth. But with the strategy, third point, with the strategy, like this property was 370, the rent's 480. That's a prime example, right? Like the average one you're going to see in here today, you're going to buy a property for like 600 and it's going to rent for like $500. So the yield's got to be there too. So yeah, I'll do one last question. Yep. Sorry.
Just with that shit.
Sorry, I cannot hear you at all. Sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. I was going to say, sits between equity. Is that being told that the financial lender has the music entitled to effectively has percentage
Yeah, so with the properties as an example, like when you, let's say someone's buying 3, 4, 5, 10 properties, technically, yeah, the bank will have the title, right? Like they will, there's no way, unless without paying it outright, the bank was gonna, own the property technically. Like you own the property, the bank just has the debt against it, of course. So there's properties in my portfolio that I've bought outright. But again, to me, the power of leverage, the power of like owning property in Australia, like you want to be leveraged as long as it's, you're doing it safely and securely and you've got rent and cash flow coming in. So, but again, titles and all that kind of stuff, I bought properties that, that are owned outright and everything, but sometimes I just refinanced them back out and used them as leverage because I think it's a waste to have a property that's with no debt on it because I could be using that to leverage my portfolio further. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you all so much for coming. Again, free book. Thank you.